The ad says $87,000, a single wide on your own raw Canadian land, the last affordable path to ownership. But that factory sticker covers only 40 to 55% of what you will actually spend. Once septic, wells, foundations, permits, and financing are totaled, the real cost can quietly cross $400,000, rivaling detached homes in cities like Regina and Moncton. So, where exactly does all that money go? Raw land draws in buyers with prices that seem almost too good to be true. In Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and parts of New Brunswick, listings for undeveloped parcels routinely appear between $15,000 and $60,000. For Canadians watching traditional home prices climb from just under $400,000 in 2013 to over $700,000 by 2024. These numbers look like a lifeline, but a closer look reveals what is really for sale. A patch of ground with no water, no power, no sewage, and often no road access. This is the reality behind the word raw. The land is untouched, unimproved, and unconnected, just a legal lot line on a map. Municipal zoning adds another layer of risk. Many towns and rural districts restrict or ban mobile homes on these parcels, treating them as conditional or even prohibited uses. Buyers who skip the fine print can find themselves holding land they cannot legally build on or facing months of red tape and added fees just to get a permit. One Manitoba couple, drawn in by a $25,000 lot, managed to secure conditional approval for a single wide. Their case stands out as a rare best-case scenario, not the rule. For most, the initial bargain is only the beginning. The real question is not how cheap the land is, but what it takes and what it costs to make it livable. The numbers on a dealer's sheet look straightforward at first glance. A single wide home advertised at $87,000, or a double wide listed for $150,000 to $300,000 suggests a clear path to ownership. But these are only sticker prices, the cost of the home itself before it ever leaves the lot. For buyers, this figure is just the opening line in a much longer bill. Industry data and real-world budgets show that the sticker price typically covers only 40 to 55% of the total amount buyers will spend. The rest is buried in the fine print or omitted entirely from glossy ads. The phrase starting at hides a cascade of extra costs: Canadian conversion fees, taxes, delivery, and the upgrades needed to meet local building codes. None of these are included in the headline price. The shell price on a brochure does not buy a ready-to-live-in home. It does not pay for a foundation, septic system, electrical hookup, or the permits required to make the home legal. Buyers who take the sticker at face value risk underestimating their budget by tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The advertised figure is not the finish line. It is barely the starting gun in a process where every step adds new costs and new complications. In reality, the so-called bargain is only a fraction of what it takes to turn a piece of raw land into a functioning, legal home. Once the home is ordered, the next wave of expenses arrives before a single wall is set in place. Delivery fees alone run from $3,000 to $12,000, depending on distance and the width of the roads leading to the property. But getting the home to the lot is only the beginning. Crane rental and crew charges for lifting and assembling the sections add another $5,000 to $15,000, with the upper end common for double wides or sites with poor access. Remote or hard to reach parcels, those with narrow driveways, soft ground, or steep approaches, can see these numbers double, turning what looked like a manageable line item into a major financial hit. Before any foundation is poured, the land itself must be cleared and graded. Contractors quote anywhere from $2,750 to $10,000 for basic brush removal, grading, and access improvements. Sites with heavy trees, rocks, or uneven ground routinely go higher. This is the stage where many buyers see their budget start to unravel as each new obstacle brings another invoice. Foundation costs are another unpredictable variable. On flat prairie soil, a standard concrete pad or pier and beam system can fall between $10,000 and $20,000. But in areas with heavy clay, bedrock, or high water tables, the price can jump to $30,000 or more. Excavation, rock breaking, and extra engineering all add to the bill. The experience of an Alberta tradesperson illustrates the point. On paper, their project seems straightforward: a modest lot, a single-wide home, no major surprises. Yet by the time delivery, crane work, land clearing, and a reinforced foundation were complete, the site prep total had nearly doubled the original estimate. No disaster, just the steady accumulation of costs that turn a raw lot into a buildable site. What began as a patch of affordable land now carries the unmistakable footprint of a full-scale construction project. Septic and water are where the dream of cheap land often collides with the hard limits of geology and regulation. On raw land without municipal sewer, a septic system isn't optional. It is a legal requirement. In Alberta, the price tag for a compliant system starts near $15,000 and can soar to $50,000, especially if the soil is heavy clay or bedrock is close to the surface. Ontario buyers face a similar reality, with standard installations running from $18,000 to $35,000. But these numbers only apply if the land passes a percolation or perks test, a mandatory step that measures how quickly water drains through the soil. A failed perk test can stop a project in its tracks, forcing a redesign, a costly, engineered system, or in some cases, making the lot effectively unbuildable. For water, drilling a well is the default. Drilling costs are calculated per foot, with contractors quoting anywhere from $45 to $115 per foot of depth. But that is only if water is found at a reasonable depth. Deeper drilling, rocky strata, or the need for advanced pumps can push costs even higher. Once installed, the well must be tested for potability and safety. It is an ongoing responsibility that adds annual compliance costs and the risk of remediation if the water fails provincial standards. The worst case plays out on the cheapest, most remote parcels. In Saskatchewan and New Brunswick, buyers have documented cases where a $30,000 lot turned into a technical nightmare, with failed PERS tests, dry wells, and the need for expensive engineered solutions. What looked like a bargain quickly became a money pit, with no guarantee of a livable outcome. In these cases, subsurface conditions, not the sticker price, decide whether the project can go ahead at all. For anyone considering raw land, these are not just line items. They are the difference between a home and a stranded investment. Power and permits quickly become the new battleground after land is secured. Electrical hookup costs depend entirely on location. A nearby utility pole might mean a $1,000 bill, but running new lines across rural land often costs $5 to $15 per foot, with totals reaching $20,000 to $50,000. Solar, often seen as a way out, brings its own price tag, $15,000 to $40,000 for a system that may not deliver through a Canadian winter. Permits and government fees add another layer, from $3,000 to $10,000 for standard approvals. In Ontario, development charges can be as low as $5,000 in small towns, or soar past $100,000 near cities. Financing is rarely straightforward. Banks usually decline traditional mortgages, steering buyers toward chattel loans with higher rates. CMHC support requires a permanent foundation and CSA certification. Closing and finance costs tack on another 2 to 5% before anyone can move in. Insurance is not a one-time hurdle, but a recurring hit, with annual premiums running from $1,000 to $3,000, sometimes higher in areas flagged for wildfire or flood risk. Rural utility bills add another layer, typically $3,000 to $5,000 each year, covering everything from electricity to propane deliveries and winter road upkeep. Septic systems require pumping every 2 to 3 years, at $300 to $600 per visit, while well owners must budget $200 to $400 for annual water testing to keep taps safe. Property taxes, though lower than city rates, are still an unavoidable expense, rising with assessed value and improvements. When all these carrying costs are added to the initial outlay, the numbers are stark. The most optimistic scenario, flat land, good soil, easy access, lands between $200,000 and $280,000. The average case, with moderate site work and typical rural challenges, climbs to $300,000 to $420,000. For remote or difficult terrain, the total can push past $450,000, sometimes reaching $500,000 or more. Compare these figures to the latest benchmarks. A detached house in Moncton averages $341,000. Regina sits near $315,000, and Thunder Bay hovers at $373,851. The so-called cheap land path can equal or even surpass the price of a conventional home in many smaller Canadian cities. The dream of affordable ownership vanishes once every hidden cost is tallied. What's sold as a shortcut to home ownership often becomes a financial trap, with the real price revealed only after the bills arrive. Today, a so-called affordable mobile home on raw Canadian land often ends up costing as much or more than a modest city house. The numbers do not lie. Permits, infrastructure, and financing stack up fast. For many, the dream comes with a bill few are truly prepared to pay.